Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coffee with Jen and Sharon. I have a nice, freshly brewed cup of coffee today with foam on the top. I made my own latte.
I brought a festive mug since we're talking about Christmas memories today.
I'm wearing my festive sweater. Does that count? This is the most festive sweater.
Very cozy. And I see outside that we're starting to get snowflakes again.
Oh, that's nice. I would prefer that. It's been
very seasonal
and cloudy here. So sometimes the only color we get in Cleveland at this time of year is white, and that actually makes things brighter. So I would be very much in favor of that. If we can't have the sun, let's have a little snow.
Yeah. So what are we talking about today, Jen?
Yeah, we're talking about holiday memories today, either our own from childhood or when our kids were small. And I have a couple that I can share, but I actually have a couple questions that I'm going to pitch at Sharon. I'm going to interview her. So it'll be kind of fun. Anyway, I just want to say before we get started that one of the things that made us think about this is that we do every Monday at 10:30, the Year Teen editorial staff. We have a meeting on Zoom, of course, because that's how you do meetings now. And we let the audience in on a few minutes of our meeting and what we're discussing. It's what we call behind the scenes. And if you're dying to see it, if you missed it, you can always catch the Coffee with Jen and Sharon and the behind the scenes and a lot of other great content is all on our YouTube, our Year Teen YouTube. So go toggle over to that later and you can just spend hours with us, as much time as you want. But so the one we did this Monday, we were talking about what do we do? Do we ask our kids for gift lists or do we try to surprise them? And what we really, the nut of the whole discussion came down to so much of our feelings about the holidays are wrapped up in our memories of what the holidays were like when we were kids. It all comes back to, it's all about us. It's always all about us. That's the bottom line.
And no pressure. But what we're doing right now is going to affect our kids for the rest of their lives.
Exactly. And then as I was thinking about it, I was like, so much of what we do in the holidays is about what our parents did for us and which traditions we liked and we carried forward. And it's also interesting when you come to a marriage and you have different holiday traditions. Sometimes they overlap, sometimes they clash a little bit, or you do things differently. And you're like,
you might not even celebrate the same holidays if you
exactly
religious backgrounds.
Who blend their holidays and create a whole different type of tradition. So that's kind of fun. But so that got me thinking about some of the things that were my family traditions, and Sharon and I both come from big families, and we have both of our moms are named Barbara. We both have older sisters named Kathy. We might actually be the same person. We're not sure. So, but I'm really curious to know if any of your traditions are similar to what ours were like. So here's the first thing I was thinking about so Sharon and I both celebrate Christmas, so these are going to be more Christmas centric. Extrapolate at will. But one of the things I was thinking about was there are families that do Santa and families that don't do Santa. And I came from a family that Santa was just a given. But of course it's Santa who's bringing the presents. And my husband came from a family, no Santa.
Wow.
It was like, there's no Santa, just so you know, it's mom and dad. So I was just curious, was your family a Santa or a no Santa family?
Definitely a Santa family. And I didn't even really know that wasn't a thing. If you celebrate Christmas, I thought everybody did Santa when we were a kid. And honestly, I kind of still think that in some ways, because I've noticed that I think of it as kind of a millennial thing in some ways, like, oh, we don't do Santa. Or I think that, I don't know. In some ways, when I think back, it's a little surprising because my parents are very, very old-fashioned in many ways and very strict. But it was like this little bit of playfulness that they definitely did. I mean, there was no question that we would be doing it. So it's kind of a marvel looking back, and it kind of gives me a warm feeling. I never thought I was being tricked or anything like that. It was the time when they played with us.
My theory about it is that Santa was a way for our parents to give us some things that they would never have wanted to be the person to give it to us, because they don't want us to have this expectation like it's okay to ask for something that's just, frivolous or a name brand you didn't need.
I do that.
It's okay.
Isn't that what you do?
Possibly. I'm not saying. Maybe somebody in my house still believes in Santa. I don't know. I don't want to disabuse them. They're 18 or 19 and 20, almost 22, but I don't want to wreck anybody's, belief system.
Right.
So does anybody in your house still expect Santa?
Yes, but I think it's fake. I think that it's at the phase where they actually know, but they want to keep playing along because it's fun too. And I know a lot of kids have said that they're worried or they didn't admit it because they thought they would get fewer presents.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. And sometimes I think they maybe in some way they know that their parents enjoy it too. So they don't want to wreck the fun for everybody.
Right.
Just
right.
kind of fun to keep it going. So, all right. So here's my follow-up question, knowing now that you were a Santa family. Did you ever write a letter to Santa?
Oh, yes.
Did you? And did you get what you wanted?
I don't remember. We didn't really do big Christmases, but I think somehow I kind of knew that I shouldn't ask for anything big. Like, when you would look through the Sears wish book.
Yep.
And I mean, it had everything up to those cars, electronic cars that you could ride in that still exist.
Yeah.
And those didn't even exist in my world. There was no way I was going to ask for something like that. So I would ask for like a set of new markers and, stuffed animal and stuff like that, stuff that I actually would get. So maybe somewhere I knew that my parents wouldn't approve of Santa if he gave me something extravagant. But I think what happened was my town did something. They collected the letters and somehow rerouted them.
Oh, that's really sweet. I love that.
But did you write to Santa?
So I only remember writing to Santa once, and I might have done it more than that. But this is a very sweet memory because it involves my older sister, Kathy. I remember that she suggested that I could write a letter to Santa and she would help me. And I don't know if it was her idea or if my mom asked her because she might have wanted to know what I wanted. I think I was probably 4 or 5, and I do remember it really pretty clearly. And what I remember is I described a very particular set of pajamas that I wanted. I wanted some soft flannel PJs with pink roses on them and stripes. Okay, that's super specific.
That complicates things a little.
Guess what? I got them.
Oh.
Santa found the exact PJs that existed only in my mind.
Well, Santa probably made them for you.
I think so. And that to me, that was like a little nugget of Christmas magic right there. I remember opening them up and being like, this is exactly what I wanted. Now, maybe I had seen them in the Sears Wish Book or the JCPenney catalog, both of which circulated freely amongst the 5 of us, and we would dog-ear the pages and circle the things that we wanted. Yeah. And you might get 1 or 2 of those things. But honestly, in my memory, these were some PJs that I only had in my mind, and somehow Santa found them and knew what was in my heart. And that's one of my favorite Christmas memories right there. So
now, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Did you do sibling gifts when you guys were kids?
We did. And actually, I remember, this is another funny thing, is being the youngest, as you and I both are, I think my allowance was like 10 cents a week. Maybe.
Oh, yeah. That sounds about right.
I think, it was not a lot. But what was I spending it on? Nothing. So, I remember our church maybe had like a little Christmas bazaar where the kids could go shopping and pick out things that were very inexpensive. And my mom would take us to those and say, okay, it's your turn to go pick out presents for your siblings and you could use your allowance. And I think I spent like an inordinate amount of time, like would they like the Snoopy playing cards or the Woodstock playing cards, whatever it was something really not exciting. But to me, I was very excited about picking up the things for them. And I remember taking them to my closet and putting them in my closet. And then one by one, I would bring my siblings and I'd be like, I want to show you what I got for everybody.
Except them.
Not a lot of surprises going on under that tree. How about you? Did you guys do sibling gifts?
We did. It was a with the 5 of us kids and my parents. It was, I think, a multi-hour process on Christmas Eve because it was a whole procedure. We would sit in a circle and my dad would sit with his back to the tree and he would reach behind and get the next gift and would pass around the circle until it got to the right person.
Uh-huh.
And one year I was so broke that I think a couple people got gum, which I think was my big ticket item. And then a couple of other people got tin can pencil holders. Like I actually canned wrapped them in paper and put little rainbows on them or whatever.
I made one of those for my mom, and it was I think we probably did it at school as a project, like at our project, but you had to like glue the felt around the can, and then we glued beans to the can. It was probably the most hideous looking thing ever, but it was supposed to be a pencil cup holder. And my blessed sainted mother kept that thing on her desk for decades.
That reminds me, I have to post a link to it. There's a woman I follow on Twitter who used to be a teacher, and a kindergarten teacher, and a kid gave her this like cardboard tree shaped thing, and it has shells pinned to it with like pearl ended shells. It's very odd. So it's all covered in shells. And the kindergartner came to her and said, my mom won this at a contest and she didn't want it, so she told me to give it to you.
Teachers probably have the best stories of the things that they've gotten for holidays.
Every year she brings it out and thinks of that story, and I think it makes her smile, because that's exactly the kind of person that should be a kindergarten teacher, not somebody who would like, no, I mean, because that's the charm of a 5-year-old.
Yes, I love that. I want to say we have somebody who commented here on our Facebook comments. It says, we both came from Santa families and we're glad to bring Santa to our child. My son believed through his 8th grade year. I love it. He worked hard to keep Santa alive for so long. Do you think he really believed, or was he like perpetuating it because he was like, I'm really hoping Santa's bringing me an iPhone this year?
I think it can be wishful thinking too, like I always thought when kids lie when they're little, I mean, this is totally different, but when kids lie when they're little, it's almost like they wish they didn't knock over that vase and break it. I didn't do it. I'm like, as if saying it could will it into being. And I think Santa can be similar. Like it can be so fun and magical that why would you let that go if there's a chance that it's still real?
Absolutely. And she, I think it's a she, but we don't know for sure because it's just, I don't have a name on this, but it says he believed and we worked hard at it. So my hat is off to you. That's pretty remarkable that you kept it going that long, and sweet too. I think that's really fun. I have one funny Christmas memory I want to share from when my kids were little, which is, I think the lesson here is you can have too much of a good thing. I remember one Christmas at my in-laws' house, and just too many presents. Like there was the tree was overflowing with stuff. And when they're little, you can get a lot of presents, and they're not expensive. You can do, each one might have been $4 or $5, but for toddlers, pretty much anything can be a present. It's just the idea of unwrapping is fun to them. But at one point, and I think my daughter was 3 when this was going on, at one point she crawled under the dining room table and burst into tears. She was overwhelmed by it, and we had to take a break for a while. And I was like, oh, so you can have too much of a good thing.
We have been there, and that something's going wrong when you say to the child, stop playing with that toy, the new toy. Stop playing. You have presents to open. Come on.
Yeah, right. You're like, oh, we got to get through this. I remember in our house, because we had a lot of people and there were a lot of presents, and but we also, church was part of the picture too. So as we got older, we would sleep in a little bit more as kids, and that meant that the present opening would be delayed, and that also meant we had to take a time out to go to church.
Oh, wow.
Was it like 10 maybe? And so like if we didn't start opening presents till 9, and you had to get ready to go to church, and then your mom had to yell at you to get in the station wagon and come on already because we're going to be late and there won't be any seats left. So whatever it was, I remember sitting in church being like, oh, come on, get this be over. We have presents to open. Wrap it up, Padre. We got stuff to do.
And you know that's the longest church service there is, right?
Forever. It was torture.
That reminds me, we'll have to post it. We had a really lovely essay that Bonnie Feldkamp wrote a couple of years ago about her older daughters and how Christmas morning is so different now. Like when you have the teenagers and they're sleeping in and you finally wake up and have a quiet house instead of somebody jumping on your bed.
Mm-hmm.
Do your girls sleep in now? We're not there yet.
Yeah. No, they asked for many years. They've been more apt to sleep in, and nobody, and the only buddy jumping on the bed at that hour is probably the cat who wants to be fed. But and it's not all bad. I mean, we come down, enjoy the tree, have a cup of coffee,
Right.
wait for them. After a while, maybe we go up and make a little noise. We're like, you want to open some presents? So that's Christmas. Christmas with teens is different than Christmas with toddlers, but I'll take it.
For sure. I want to hear more about what our viewers are remembering and doing and what your non-Christmas traditions are. And, we haven't even talked about the fact that this year is going to be different. It's just that having the older kids makes it different to begin with. So we'd love to hear more from everyone on that.
Definitely. Sharon, I have one last question for you before we go. Oh. Dying to know this. Did you ever peek at your presents and ruin the surprise? Like, did you know where your parents hid them before?
Well, yes, no, but
what? Huh? I'm hearing some different information here. What's going on?
Okay, so I never found the hiding place and searched that out or anything. But with 5 children, Santa was very busy, and Santa didn't wrap. So in our house, when you came down on Christmas morning, the presents were all under your stocking, unwrapped. And you could tell whose was whose, but there were no signs or wrapping. So
your presents weren't wrapped?
No.
That is blowing my mind.
So yeah, I should have. I hid the lead here. That was the crazy thing.
You buried the lead. That is crazy.
So that's why my parents would always say, "Don't wake us up until X hour." I don't know what time it was, but we had a dog, and the dog needed to be walked, and walking the dog was somebody's assigned job, and that was the best job to have Christmas week because you had an excuse. So I was like, who's walking the dog? Who's walking the dog? And then we'd say, Mike, what did you see? What did you see? Like we were supposed to not try to see, but I saw something that was really big and blue for Janet. And it was like, so when it was my turn, I'm sure I peeked in that way. But
oh, that is so funny. But that just reminded me of something in our house that we had to do, which is both of my brothers at different times had paper routes. And the paper route had to be delivered before we could open the presents. So the one and only time that anybody would ever volunteer to help the brothers with the paper route was Christmas morning. And that would have been
get it done.
That would have been your first opportunity to take a peek at what was under the tree. Now, ours were all wrapped. And this was our family tradition is that we had to line up at the top of the stairs and we couldn't go down until my parents got up. Because when you're little, you're up at like 5 a.m. ready to open presents. So we would be sitting there and we had to line up in order of age. I was the first. Same. So we lined up on the stairs in order.
You got to go first, right?
Yeah, that was the one time you get to go first. I'm sure there were many other times actually. But we had to wait for my dad to get up and take a shower.
What? Oh,
you could hear him. Like, we're like, he's up.
I'm sorry, but that's a robe morning. That is not.
I know. My mom was all about that. She would get the robe on and they would wear their fancy robes on Christmas. They have fancy robes that only get worn on Christmas.
Well, it's going to be in the photos too, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. And so then we'd be waiting. And then here's the other thing. We had to wait for my dad to go down and turn on the Christmas tree lights, and he would have to call up and let us know whether or not Santa had come.
Oh,
we couldn't see the tree from the top of the stairs. We'd be peeking down there waiting. Did Santa come? Did Santa come? My dad would go down and put on the tree lights. Okay, you can come down. Santa came. So yeah.
I have to admit, we still do that. We go turn on the tree and see if Santa came, and then take a picture on the stairs.
Yep.
And they come down.
I hope you do that forever.
I hope so too. I think we will.
So, and I want to point out, somebody else had a little comment on here that says, last night we took the teens in our Santa hats to Topgolf. It was a blast. A new tradition was born, thanks COVID-19. I love people are getting creative and figuring out ways to have fun.
Yeah. And Topgolf is like Do you know what that is, Jen? It's like,
Yeah, I
it's
can't wait to try it.
outdoors, basically. It's like a layers and layers of balconies where you can golf right off the balcony. It's a perfect thing for COVID.
That's a great idea. Maybe we might have to go check that out too. So, all right. Well, tell us what new traditions you're doing this year. What ones from your childhood you're keeping, or you're hoping to keep alive. This is all good, fun stuff to focus on at a time when there's maybe not a lot of other great things to be excited about. So keep it coming.
Well, we'll see you soon. I'm not sure if we're coming next week on the 23rd. We'll have to discuss.
We'll discuss. See what's
All
going
right.
on. All right. Take care.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.